think I'm going. YouTube's a little different. Alright, yeah, oh, there it is. Okay, so. Close, I guess. Alright. I want to check that too. Check. Alright. Okay, so let's see if we can get this going as well. So, you know what So, what was that for a sec? Bear with me. I'm trying my first time on YouTube, so give me a sec to try and figure out how this works. Or pop-out chat. Let's see something. Let's see if this works. Test. Aha! Cool, I did. Okay. Alright. I think I'm getting it. Alright, so. Let's see if it still works on the other ones too. Hello! Hello, hello. Alright. Just hello. Okay, so I did it. Alright, I'm currently streaming to 3 channels at the moment. Namely Twitch, Mixer, and YouTube right now. So you can watch my channel on there if you want. I also have the chat popped up here. I still need to do that too. One sec. Writing a note here. Well, the chat's getting a bit more complicated than I've been using it before, so I think I'm gonna have to change up the chat clients a bit. On my end, nothing really anybody has to worry about, but I'm gonna have to start doing that now. You may see comments from YouTube now. Maybe. It's its own thing. Okay, so where were we? We Umineko. We were discussing I can't quite remember where it originally started, but where it was safe in the place and like if there were other people or not. So we made the decision to go to grandfather's study, Kinzo, and hole up in there with everybody. But then we found that one letter, which we determined was put there by the servants, kicked them out. Later on we discovered that the circle was about discord. Magic circle was about discord sowing chaos or some such. Got freaked out with a phone call, went back into the parlor, found Maria staring at a wall singing with a whole bunch of mutilated bodies behind her that apparently Beatrice did. And all the servants are now dead. And we turned around and Aunt Natsuhi had picked up a letter, left the room, and locked the door or barricaded it or some such. And we are just picking up right where Natsuhi, from Natsuhi's perspective at the moment, I guess, was where we left off at. Also, I have to say, I really do love the music right here. It's really cool. So they don't really have it anywhere else, but that's where we're at. Okay. So, here we go. Oh yeah, one last thing before we go. I also uploaded the first episode yesterday. So I have one video up of our 2-hour session last time up on YouTube. Go watch it if you want. Alright, here we go. Natsuhi's figure was alone in the entrance hall. It was the place decorated by the portrait of Beatrice. Natsuhi threw down Beatrice's last letter, the one she had read in the parlor. Ready to wreck again, and in a voice that rang clear, yelled in the massive space that was the entrance hall. I am Ushiromiya Natsuhi, representative of the Ushiromiya family. Show yourself, Golden Witch Beatrice. Oh, hello, welcome. Welcome back. The entrance hall was dimly lit. Other than a faint light which shone on the center of the room, everything was blotted out by the jet black darkness. In that darkness, butterflies glittering in gold squirmed, twinkled, and sneered. Natsuhi gave one more huge gulp and pointed the cold barrel of the gun at the gold butterflies. So you have finally shown yourself. I still can't believe that something like you really exists. But that isn't a problem. Both I, who bear the title of representative to the Ushiromiya family, and you, who claim to succeed the headship of the Ushiromiya family, are here right now. At this point, whether you are a witch or not is a trivial matter. Come, let us settle this. Which of us will truly succeed the Ushirimiya family? I, Ushirimiya Natsuhi, or you, Beatrice. Allow me to respectfully accept your request for a duel. The gold butterfly slowly formed a human shape, which walked into the dim light. Natsuhi readied the rifle, and glared. The witch raised her golden staff overhead, and laughed. Natsuhi's finger slowly squeezed the trigger. And go! Battler made an all-out dash at the door and rammed into it, crushing the candle stand that had been barring it and making it possible for a big gap to be opened in the door. He kept kicking the candle stand through the gap, and the door was finally released. At that time, they heard it. They certainly heard the crisp sound of gunfire ring out once. Mom! Mom! Jessica-chan, you mustn't run off by yourself. Was that the sound of a gun just now? No. Did Aunt Natsuhi shoot? At whom? At the culprit. The noise had come from the entrance hall, and the entrance hall looked like a stage, like the heroine of a tragedy, on the ground and bathed in light, arrayed in the beauty of that silence. Aunt Natsuhi lay face up, crumpled on the floor. Half crazed, Jessica ran up to Aunt Natsuhi. On Aunt Natsuhi's forehead, it was almost as though a sparkling shard of pigeon blood ruby had been placed there. And from it, one stream of blood makeup passed by her eye, and began to reverse her face. The faint smell of gunpowder smoke came from the barrel of the rifle and Natsuhi still grasped. Huh? Then she shot herself in the forehead? Why? Mom! I don't get it. Why did Aunt Natsuhi run away alone? And why did she shoot through her own forehead? Maria-chan, Aunt Natsuhi left the room after reading a letter, right? There's no letter here. Damn it. What did Aunt Natsuhi read? And why was she lured out here? I don't know. Who cares about that? What the hell? Why did she kill herself? Why did she leave me all alone? Jessica clung to her mother's corpse, crying earnestly. My body was consumed with an anger I didn't know what to do with, and I snatched the rifle from Aunt Natsuhi's hand. I spun around, pointing the barrel of the gun in the darkness on all sides as though I was pointing a light from a lighthouse, trying to find the culprit. Indeed. George Anarchy, even in this situation, was trying to calmly figure something out, but that might have been a fruitless effort. And only Maria was completely indifferent. So is this all supposed to be some kind of predetermined fate? No, that's not it. This is all a prelude to a wonderful world. The door to the Golden Land will finally open. On the 9th twilight the witch shall revive, and none shall be left alive. And on the 10th twilight, at journey's end, you shall attain to the power of the Golden Land's treasures, once and for the last time. With this, everything is over, Beatrice. Congratulations. So lead me to the Golden Land you told me of. Right now. There, all of the dead will be revived, and even lost love will be restored. So, in Maria's eyes, it's just as though all of today's tragedies didn't happen. It's as though all the time she spent deprived of love never happened. Stop it. What's so fun? What's to be congratulated? There are 18 people on this island. 14 are dead. Only the 4 of us are left. I'm definitely not gonna die. Until the night is over. No, until the typhoon passes and the seagulls gather again at the harbor. I'm definitely not gonna die. I'll stay alive. I'll stay alive no matter what. Give it up, Battler. Guns are useless against witches. Survival and all that stuff doesn't matter because it's over. The journey has already ended. See? Look at the clock. Huh? The clock? Hearing those words, I looked at my wristwatch. Both needles were almost touching near the top. Very soon it will be 12 at night. In other words, midnight. When you think about it, isn't 24 a strange time? It can be called 24 and it can also be called 0. It's the hour at the culmination of the previous day, and at the same time it's 0 hours the next day begins. Beatrice! Maria suddenly called out happily and ran towards the darkness. It was almost as though Beatrice was somewhere in that darkness, and Maria was running up to her. As Jessica hugged her mother's corpse, as George Jenneke stood there confused, I looked down the barrel of the rifle, gazing into the darkness. The space in front of Beatrice's portrait lay in that direction, and the thing Maria was running up to was the portrait's subject. You've got to be kidding me. This is just impossible. Like I'd fall for something like this. Witches don't exist. I won't accept it. Something like you shouldn't exist because this is a human world. You think I could accept something that's not human? I definitely won't accept it. When I pulled hard on the rifle's lever, the cartridge was ejected, fell on the floor, and a new cartridge was loaded. Then I sighted the witch down the barrel. Maria turned around. Still clinging to the golden witch, she turned around. Didn't I tell you it was meaningless? Mere lead bullets are meaningless against Beatrice. Humans are so stupid, aren't they? I won't accept the existence of witches. Who are you? Just try moving one step. Just try moving one finger. I'll blast you away. As the witch. No. The witches laughed. Even the large clock in the hall joined in on their laughter. It was probably telling us that the time was 24. It was both a tone telling us that we had reached the culmination of this day, and a tone informing us that all had returned to nothing. The rule that the witch would win when time ran out had already been revealed. Battler, George Nichan, and Jessica. The journey has ended, and the witch has revived, see? And none shall be left alive. The witch shall praise the wise and bestow 4 treasures. One shall be all the gold from the golden land. One shall be the resurrection of all the dead souls. One shall be the resurrection of the love that was lost. One shall be to put the witch to sleep for all time. Sleep peacefully, my beloved witch Beatrice. I think the Japanese do. I think the Japanese use that number system. Maybe it'd give us that weird little crack for that 1 minute. The storm has passed, and the leaden clouds that had enshrouded the island for so long cleared away. From the rifts between the clouds, sunbeams shone, and yesterday's storm seemed like a lie. Just as someone had wished, the seagulls returned to the harbor once again and let their lively cries be heard. Afterwards, the police came and conducted an investigation of the scene. The corpses of the children, who were thought to have survived until the very end, were never found. However, because of the body parts that were discovered and the unimaginably gruesome nature of the scene, the police were forced to conclude that the chances of survival for any of the 18, even the children, seemed hopelessly dim. Just how gruesome was the banquet of the witch, and how beautiful was the golden land. They were the only ones who got to hear that tale. No tales were told to those humans who arrived after the banquet was over. The best they could do was imagine what might have happened during those 2 days. However, the witch was fickle. She made a point of leaving behind this tale, which didn't need to be heard, and it was allowed to spread. Then, many years later, a strange wine bottle that had drifted on the waves of the pier of a neighboring island was pulled out by a fisherman. Inside it was a thin, tightly rolled notebook fragment. Written upon it crumpled small letters. Written there was this tale. Through this notebook fragment, people will finally learn the truth of the mysterious and real-filled 2-day period that started on October 4th, 1986. This incident was later called by many names such as the Rokkenjima mass murders or the 18 killings of Rokkenjima, though Deolentis from around the world knew it as witch legend serial murders. Lovers of the occult claimed it was all a result of an immortal ceremony that had severed the island, and those 2 mysterious days were savagely embellished with many interpretations as the story began to spread far and wide. However, not one of those interpretations approached the truth. Furthermore, while the notebook fragment described the mysterious incident, it does not reveal the truth of what happened there. Or perhaps, even the writer didn't know what the truth was. According to the writer, her name was Ushirmiya Maria. Incidentally, as a result of an all-out police investigation, part of Maria's body, a piece of her jaw, was discovered. It was one of the rare instances where a corpse was identified thanks to dental records. At that gruesome scene, there had been many body parts that couldn't be identified as belonging to any specific person, so it's probably fair to say this jaw was an extremely fortunate find. Because this jaw has been separated from his body, the police judge the chances of survival, or at least identified. And so, let's conclude this tale as the final section of the notebook fragment that Maria left behind. By the time you have read this, I will probably be dead. Although there may or may not be a corpse, you have read this, please find out the truth. That's my only wish. Ushirmiya Maria. To this very day, the truth of the tale of Witch Legend serial murders has not been brought to light. First game, Legend of the Golden Witch results. Rouse died on the first twilight, chosen by the key of the Golden Witch and offered up as sacrifice. Rudolph, first twilight, sacrifice. Kiri, Rosa, Shannon, Goda, sacrifice. Ushirmiya Eva died on the second twilight, pierced to the forehead by the stake of Asmodeus. Ushirmiya Hideo, second twilight, stake of Beelzebub. Kinzo, fourth twilight, stake of Mammon. Kanon, fifth twilight, stake of Satan. Genji, Nanjo, Kumasawa, gouged by stake of Lucifer, stake of Belphegor, stake of Leviathan. The witch Beatrice, revived on the ninth twilight. Natsuhi died on the ninth twilight, in honor of a duel. George, Jessica Maria, after he acknowledged the existence of the witch and protested himself, the witch invited him to the Golden Land. After prostrated, Golden Land, Battler. Will the witch investigate this man who denied her existence to the Golden Land? The witch will praise the wise and bestow 4 treasures to the Golden Land. There they chose to provide the souls of the dead and love that had been lost. After all, no matter how large amount of gold they might have desired, it would have been out of their grasp. George chose his lost finance. Sleep peacefully, Beatrice. The winner is this Golden Witch Beatrice. Time ran out before one of the 18 people could solve the riddle of the golds. All 18 died. When the seagulls cried, none were left alive. It's going a bit too fast. I can't read that fast, man. 7th expansion presents Welcome to Rokkenjima, When They Cry 3. Okay. I did my best, guys. Sorry. I had to skip a bit. Right. Addition of new features. The Golden Witch has prepared a gift for you in commemoration of your stay. You can find these new features on the title screen. Really? I started a stream at the end there. Give me a sec. Episode is locked. Let me start here. To attend those before episode 2. Alright. You've done well to make this far. Have you enjoyed your stay in Rokkenjima? The Golden Witch has granted you an invitation to her tea party. We hope that you choose to attend. Yeah. Well, slightly slower I could have kept up, but I did pretty good, all things considered. Alright, tea party, episode 1, tea party. Let's see what happens. Okay, so thank you guys for sticking around. Purgatorio. Purgatorio. Hey everyone, congrats on finishing Umineko no Nako Korikun. Man, I still don't have a clue what was going on when the story ended. I do, but I'm not gonna say. So just what happened? Was that basically the bad ending where the time runs out before the culprit gets exposed? Ooh, definitely a bad ending. Ooh. That's right. Beatrice's letter, which Maria-chan read on the first day, did tell us in advance to solve the riddles of the epitaph. We were also busy trying to protect ourselves and look for the culprit that we didn't even take a shot at it. That's right. If we'd actually tried to solve the riddle, maybe things would have ended differently. Hey, Shannon. I wonder about that. Shannon-chan, you did a good job too. You don't have to be our waitress and serve tea. After all, this is a rap party. As a group of people who met a horrible fate, let's all get along and lick each other's wounds. Lick, lick, lick. Speaking of a horrible fate, Shannon beats the rest of us hands down, doesn't she? She was such a beautiful character, so I thought she'd definitely survive until the very end. But she was killed right in the beginning, and on top of that, what was it? Half of her face was smashed, right? That's the worst. That was my role, so, there was no way around it. Nay, son, it's nothing for you to worry about. Judging by the last epilogue, even the lady and the rest of them met an extremely tragic end. It seems so. I think I remember seeing this horrible picture, kind of like my entire body had been eaten apart and dismembered. Speaking of which, don't you think Cannon's last moments were the coolest? Even though he had the tables turned on him, it was a showdown with the culprit, right? It's a whole bunch better than our confusing last moments, right? Though, in the end, I was unable to get a solid hit in. Still, I think Cannon-kun's death was a big hit. Big hint. After all, because of that, the existence of the 19th person was made clear. That's right. At that time, everyone's location was obvious, so it was impossible for anyone other than some unknown 19th person to kill Cannon. Who? I said it was Beatrice from the beginning, over and over. Who? I don't want to believe it, but that does prove the culprit was a witch calling herself Beatrice. That's right. There were many strange things that happened that a human couldn't do. Who? Only a witch could do things like murdering Aunt Eva in that closed room. A human couldn't do it. Who? Not only is the existence of a 19th person clear, but it's also obvious that this person holds a power that humans can't even imagine. In that case, I don't think there's anything wrong with calling this person Beatrice. They probably met at the very end. Met with the Golden Witch. Like I kept saying, Beatrice exists. It all went bad because no one ever believed. Oh. Even one of her witch friends says that miracles won't occur if you don't believe. Oh. That's right. Beatrice-sama is generous to those who respect her. It seems to me that Maria-sama was never a target of Beatrice-sama's wrath up to the very end, despite the horrible crimes that occurred one after the other. Well, Maria believed in Beatrice from the very beginning. But if that's the case, how do you explain why you and the rest were all killed? You guys believed in Beatrice just as much, right? Beatrice-sama probably had her reasons. If the Song of the Epitaph represented Beatrice-sama's resurrection ceremony, many sacrifices were needed. He must simply have been designated to be one of those. Shannon-chan, you met a horrible end. At the very least, I wish your death could have been more peaceful and pretty. Well, it's not like it hurt. Anyway, right now I'm perfectly fine, so don't worry. After seeing him stroke Shannon's cheek, which had been crushed during the story, everyone laughed out loud, smiling. Well, it feels a bit weird saying this, but I was sure this story would fit into the standard mystery genre. I'm a bit surprised to find out that it's a fantasy. After all, a Western mansion shut away from the outside world on an isolated island with an inheritance problem on everyone's minds. This sounds just like a typical mystery novel to me. Oh, it's not fantasy. Beatrice exists. Oh. It is pretty cute, huh? Yes, we understand. Beatrice-sama does exist. That's right. Beatrice-sama does exist. I hate to admit it, but I've got no choice. Because it's obvious that a 19th person, a witch, was involved. Many things happened that would be impossible for humans. During the story, we tried to deny that in all sorts of ways. But now I can say it for sure. Each crime, every single one, would have been impossible for a human. They'd be impossible to carry out unless it was the witch Beatrice using all the power magic could provide. The culprit was a witch. That point's perfectly clear. Long live Beatrice. Ooh, everyone believed. I'm so glad. Ooh. Gods and witches might seem terrifying to people who are frightened of them, but I think they must be affectionate to those who believe in and respect them. I think you're right. So, this murder case game is finally over. Now's the time to pull ourselves together and try hard to solve the riddle of the epitaph, just like Beatrice said, right? Ooh, I agree. Beatrice will definitely be happy. Everyone ignored that letter during the story. Even though it was thrust right in front of us, we almost completely ignored it. Kind of like I kind of feel sorry for Beatrice-sama. Just queen crown. Isn't the queen spiked though? I think that's the king's crown. Maybe. I've got the epitaph written down right here. Let's all solve it. Let's all solve it. This story probably went wrong ever since that time. That may be so. Maybe we should have tried solving the epitaph's riddle from the beginning, like Beatrice said. Well, it's a little late now. Even so, let's try solving it now and see if the witch will forgive us. Let's go. Let's try to solve the riddle of the epitaph. It was something like, "Behold the Sweetfish River running through my beloved hometown." Maria put her notebook on the table and opened to the page where the epitaph was written. Everyone stared at it, getting really into it as they started guessing this and that about the riddle. Started by the smell of black tea and freshly baked vanilla cookies, they spent the time comfortably and happily. Hold on a second, you guys. But Battler spoke in a way that cut through the conversation. His expression looked a little unhappy. Oh yeah, you could absolutely make one. Probably some like pipe cleaner wire and just clay or something. His expression looked a little unhappy. What could he not like about all of this? I've been listening to you guys for a while, but why did you all stop thinking? Why are you so sure that the witch was behind all this? Don't you realize something like that can't exist? With just those words, the happy atmosphere surrounding the tea party evaporated in an instant. George and Jessica, and Shannon and Cannon, and Maria, all of them stared blankly, wondering what in the world Battler was talking about. Even the foolish, arrogant Battler realized that he hadn't chosen his words well. Because, isn't it clear that these crimes were impossible for a human? That's right, that's right. None of the cases would have been possible for a human. That's true. After all, wasn't it full of things that humans couldn't explain? I don't understand what you're saying, Battler-sama. I'm the one who doesn't have a clue what you guys are talking about. Isn't it obvious that humans committed these crimes? There's no way something like a witch exists, right? Then, what about when I was killed in the storehouse, and something horrible was done to half of my face? If the culprit was human, how could they have accomplished it? Well, it's hard to imagine how they did something that awful. But that was the Rose Garden storehouse, right? I'm sure there were plenty of weird tools in there. Let's say they used some electrical tools like a grinder or an electric saw. That's, Then, Battler, how do you explain Grandfather's disappearance from the study when it was a closed room? Even though the door was sealed, Grandfather just suddenly disappeared, right? Yeah, kind of. We talked about that during the story, too. It's not impossible that Grandfather used some trick to fool the receipt. It's also possible that he went out the window, fell down, and Aunt Natsuhi locked the window from the inside. I could think of a bunch of tricks you could use without relying on magic. That makes sense, but in that case, Battler-kun, how do you explain the way my parents were killed in the guest room? The door was sealed by the lock and the chain. Naturally, the window was sealed, too. How do you think a human could have killed my parents? Well, we did have to leave that trick alone during the story. Anyway, there's at least a good chance the culprit had a key, and it was possible to look in through the crack of the door that the chain allowed. I know this is a stretch, but it's possible some device was used through that crack. Like maybe they stuck something through it? Well, even though a door's chain is incredibly simple, it's a big factor in setting up a closed room. Still, there's probably some closed room trick they could have used. If you brought some closed room mystery novels from the bookstore, you could probably find some tricks that'd fit perfectly. Anyway, I can't think of one now, but I claim that there's nothing humans can't do if they try hard enough. Isn't that argument horribly irrational? It's just ridiculous to claim that it's possible for a human to do something, even though you can't explain how. Why is that ridiculous? Why did all of you stop thinking? Even something that looks impossible has to be doable. Doesn't it always work like that? Battler, you're the one being ridiculous. If you think a human could have done it, try explaining how. You can't, can you? And you're okay with saying the culprit is a witch just because I can't explain it? With that argument, all the unsolved crimes in the world could be resolved by saying a witch is the culprit. Battler, you're sidestepping the issue and you aren't explaining anything. We're saying a human couldn't have done it. Therefore, the culprit is something that isn't human, and that something is a witch. And yet you keep arbitrarily deciding that witches are impossible, even though you can't explain anything. It's almost like humanity was during the Dark Ages. Like those fools who claimed the heavens spun around the earth. Those who said that the earth couldn't be spinning, even though they couldn't explain why. That kind of argument kind of pisses me off. So this is basically what you're trying to say. If I can't explain how a human could do it, then I must accept that the culprit is a witch? It's not like we're forcing you to go that far. We were just wondering on what basis you can say such nonsense. Nonsense? Hey, have I really been saying something that weird just now? Am I the one who's crazy? You guys are really starting to freak me out. Battler-sama, when I died in the boiler room, I was killed by a 19th person who shouldn't exist. Can you explain how a human could have done that? At that time, the locations of the 18 were well known. Even so, I was killed. We talked about that in the story as well, right? Kumasawa Ba-chan, for example. She said she followed right after you and headed down to the boiler room, but we can't know for sure whether that was a lie or not. For all we know, she might have entered the boiler room with you and caught you by surprise. Or maybe, when you stepped into the boiler room, you activated some kind of trap, one that might have been set up to hit you with one of those ice picks. After all, the stink of Grandfather's body was coming from the incinerator. Someone was bound to go and check, so if the culprit just set up a trap beforehand, they could easily have stayed away from that place and used the time of Kanekun's death to create an alibi. I didn't quite notice that, but yeah, that is true. He's white, black crown. You talk about a trap in the boiler room, but what kind of trap would that be? That's right. Following his death, everyone immediately ran over to the boiler room. But we didn't find any kind of weird device, did we? That is correct. Battler-sama, what kind of trap could I have been killed with? Well, I don't know that. But anyway, they must have used some kind of clever trap, or maybe someone's lying. Or what about this? Kanekun, what if the whole thing was just you play-acting? That's it, you were play-acting. Auntie Eve and Uncle Hideyoshi were also play-acting. They made the clothes room themselves, and were only pretending to be dead. Battler, has your head been, feeling okay? Should I bring some cold drinks? Don't look at me with those pitying eyes. I'm not saying something that crazy, right? I'm just pointing out some possibilities you might find if you think of it all as a trick. Look, isn't it a pretty classic trick in mystery novels to have one of the victims just be playing dead? A classic trick? In other words, when Kanekun was killed, we knew for sure where all the rest of us were. And let's assume that Kumasawa Ba-chan wasn't lying. But that's only counting the survivors. What if the culprit pretended to be dead and joined a group of real victims so we'd lose track of them, and then acted on their own later? Everything would be explained. Oh, yeah. We got a Discord. You can join us if you want. Huh? So, are you trying to say that Aunt Eva or one of the others was the culprit? But didn't Dr. Nanjo confirm all of their deaths as a doctor? That's right. Dr. Nanjo checked all of the victims. Battler-sama, for your theory to work, wouldn't Dr. Nanjo have to be one of the culprits too? Yeah, that's right. Once you consider that Dr. Nanjo might have been one of the culprits and faked the proclamation of death, the whole story changes. See, that's also a classic trick in mystery novels, isn't it? But Dr. Nanjo was also killed, right? About that. That's right, Dr. Nanjo faked his death. After all, there wasn't anyone except Dr. Nanjo who could examine corpses properly, and everyone was really confused then anyway. We didn't have any spare time to check and see if he still had a pulse. With this theory, any one of the dead people could have been walking around. I think it would have been hard for the 6 of us who died in the beginning to do that. After all, the shutter was closed, and there was a padlock that couldn't have been opened from the inside. That's right. Mom was holding on to that key. So was Mom one of the culprits too? Wait a sec. Maybe it was impossible for the first 6, but in the case of Enki's parents, the door was only locked on the outside, so they could have opened it from the inside. That's right. After we left the room, maybe they jumped out the window and got to the boiler room first. Is that too much of a stretch? Or maybe Dr. Nanjo made a mistake when examining the corpses? Look, he said it himself, right? He said there's a very high probability of making a mistake when examining corpses. If you disguise it well enough or prepare to substitute body, you could fake your own death. Let's see the method or trick they use for later, and you see, it's not that hard to deny a 19th person existed, right? Much less a witch, right? This is my exact theory. At least that much is completely impossible. I don't know why you've been trying so stubbornly to say that one of us is the culprit. In other words, you want to suspect one of your relatives? That's not it. It's just, I can't easily accept that a 19th person existed. And even if one did, I think we should construct our argument from the point of view that the culprit was a human. I will only accept that it's a witch in desperation, at the very end, after everything else has been disproved. There's no way witches exist, right? Why is everyone casually accepting that the culprit was a witch? I think it's great how your family loves Your family love makes you hate the thought that someone close to you is a murderer. But is it okay to let that fool you? Don't you want to find the detestable culprit who killed so many people? Aniki, don't you want to avenge your parents? Jessica, don't you want to avenge Canon-kun, and Canon-kun, don't you want to avenge Shannon-chan? Shannon-chan, you should at least want to know who it was that killed you. Why has everyone totally surrendered and decided that the culprit was a witch? What's wrong with all of you? The foolish and short-tempered battler tried to force his ignorance on the others and yelled at them. However, everyone just looked at him pityingly, silently watching over him. At that time, the wise Maria laughed and pointed out Battler's mistake. I'm shocked. All I see is you repeating this nonsense, thinking you figured something out, Battler. So, what's next? How would a human do it? In practical terms, I mean. I imagine you'll say I just can't think of anything now, or with some kind of device, using abstract words to run away and evade the topic. What I really want to know, Battler, is this. Why don't you believe in Beatrice? She exists, so why don't you believe? Because she doesn't exist. Witches don't exist. There's no way. It was almost like a spoiled child who just doesn't want to accept something. The pitying gazes quietly closed in around Battler, but they didn't reach his stubborn heart. You realize that you're acting just like a spoiled brat throwing a tantrum, right? Battler-sama, I understand your feelings, but Beatrice does exist. Battler-kun, why don't you believe, even though there's so much proof? I don't accept the argument that the witch must have been behind everything just because I can't explain it. Does this mean that if you don't know how a light bulb shines, then magic is the cause? That's wrong, isn't it? There's nothing that can't be explained without magic. All of this about witches and magic is just an abdication of thought. You just surrendered and gave up because you don't understand what happened. Isn't that right? Well, unsurprisingly, it looks like you alone won't believe no matter what, Battler. If even a single person doesn't believe, the miracle won't occur. So, if you don't rethink your ignorant theories, the magic won't be completed. Now I see. I finally figured it out. So, in other words, you guys are trying to force me to say the witch exists, right? A lie that everyone accepts becomes the truth. Is that what this is all about? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I keep going on about this, but what you're all doing is all useless. I refuse. You guys are all pressing me, and that's why it's all useless. Why? Sorry, but why don't you let me spin the chessboard around one last time? If you want to force me to accept that there's a witch, there's a really easy way. And it's not the indirect way of saying it must be a witch because humans couldn't have done it. All you have to do is show me a witch doing it with magic. Furthermore, what Maria said earlier is what'll really dig her grave. She said that if every one person doesn't believe, a miracle won't occur. But real miracles happen whether people believe in them or not, even if I alone don't believe it. So any miracles or magic or witches that exist only because I believe in them are downright lies. The uneasy mood following Battler's ignorant rant was blown away by a very soft and light laugh. Whose laugh? Battler was surprised. He had never heard that voice before. When he looked at George and Jessica, at Shannon and Cannon and Maria, he noticed that they had suddenly gone respectfully silent. Beatrice. How amusing. I haven't met such a charming human for quite some time. But who are you? Don't you even know the host of the tea party you were invited to? How amusing indeed. This is Beatrice-sama, the Golden Witch who has lived for 1,000 years. It is an honor to be graced with your presence, Beatrice-sama. Please forgive Battler-kun's ranting. This guy's just stubborn and, he still doesn't understand the situation he's in. Best girl, huh? That appears to be said. What a treat this is. Most witches get tired of living after the first 1,000 years. How nice it is to meet a man with backbone such as yourself every once in a while. It is quite an honor to be present when Beatrice shows herself, Battler. How astonishing. Are you really that desperate to make me believe that a 19th person is the culprit? This is starting to get interesting. and it's all useless. You must be the illusion that Maria and the others call the witch Beatrice. And you'll only be allowed to exist if everyone believes it. You have that kind of half-existence, right? That's why you want to make me believe, too. Yeah, her skin kicker. Indeed. You can't exist because I alone don't believe in you. Isn't that right? Your powers of comprehension aren't bad for a mere commoner who knows nothing of magic. Yes, it seems you were born with a strong magic-resisting power. You're a natural enemy of us witches. No matter how much we turn your world upside down, you never believe in us. Therefore, the magic won't succeed. I accept that attitude of yours. I've got no clue what you're saying. That's very kind of you to go to all the trouble of showing yourself to us. But I don't believe you exist in the slightest. It's true that many strange things happened during these 2 days. Like Maria said earlier, even though I think all the tricks could be explained, I still can't lay out the practical details of each one. However, that doesn't mean I'll surrender. I'm different from the rest of them, got it? I'll never accept that it was the work of a witch just because I can't explain it. This keeps getting more amusing. Making you surrender will be worth my while. You're just the kind of man I'd like to force into praising my name. I'd love to try making a man like you kiss my toes. If you want to talk nonsense, talk all you want. I deny you exist. I'll explain all these events with humans and tricks. There's no room for even a speck of magic or witches. Wonderful. What a perfect way to divert oneself from 1,000 years of boredom. Then let me ask you. A short while ago, you said that using the crack in the door would be sufficient to kill Eva and Hideyoshi, right? Explain how they could have been killed using some human trick. Suddenly jumping right into the toughest part, are you? Does that mean this is the trick you're proudest of, Miss Real Culprit? That's a weird transition. With a shake of her golden pipe, gentle, multicolored smoke trailed out of the end. The smoke quickly obscured their surroundings, and they were suddenly in the hallway of the mansion. The door in front of them slightly opened, but secured by the chain was... That's right, it's the door to the room where Eva and Hideyoshi were killed. Nice trick. Very well. Show me what you would do through this small crack, Battler. They probably had some device to shoot those ice picks. If they use that, how would they reach Eva over on the bed when you can't see that far through this crack? And how would they reach Hideyoshi in the bathroom with the door shut? Damn. There's a crack. There should be some way. If you can't think of one, allow me. Oh? How would a witch do it? Come on, let's see your little trick. Matler, you're being rude to Beatrice. How nice, how nice. What a charming man. That will make it even more fun to force him into submission. Heh, you really want to make me kiss your toes that much? Only if I surrender. But watch. I'll definitely expose this trick, and then I'll make you kiss my ass instead. What a delightful man. I'll remember that promise. Weak witches kiss the hinds of demons to gain power, because there's no more humiliating oath. Just being told that makes me want to force you into surrender. Paying no mind to Battler's worthless ranting, Beatrice once again shook the golden pipe. That's right, that golden pipe was her precious magic cane. Come, arise, children. I am the guide of purgatory. Forgive the deadly sins and hold the 7 stakes. Guided by those magic words, which sounded like a command, 7 stakes gathered. They were the stakes of the 7 demons, symbolizing the deadly sins of sinful people. Beelzebub and Asmodeus, come, forgive the sins. Release the spirits of the sinners. What? The picks of Beelzebub and Asmodeus responded to Beatrice's call. The 2 stakes of the demons were sucked in through the crack of the door like billiard balls struck by a cue stick. Then, several scattered noises refracted through the wall, making a sound like a woodpecker, and at the end a pleasant sound could be heard. It was a small, satisfying sound like the one heard when someone is chopping firewood and the falling axe neatly and easily slices through the wood. It was the sound of two ice picks burying themselves deep into Eva and Hideyoshi's foreheads. Right down the middle. Want to see? They definitely heard two sounds like a pair of foreheads being split open. Battler wasn't permitted to see it, since he was on the other side of the door, but those who had died again, and the second time, they lay not an inch apart from where they had lain the last time, with the exact same blood spray as before. You moron. That's insane. You think you can just kill them like that? I can kill them. I can kill them just like this. Suddenly, they were no longer in the hall, but seated at the tea party they had started from. Everyone but Battler was sitting meekly, but Cannon was moaning, fresh blood dangling from his mouth. What a rude thing to do at a tea party. Satan's stake was buried deep into Cannon's chest. Cannon-kun! Cannon-kun! Damn it! Battler was the only one getting agitated. George, Jessica, Shannon. Everyone else was meekly hanging their heads like students being yelled at by their teacher. Cannon was captivated by a trifling anger and tried to disturb my banquet. Being easily captivated by anger is your deadly sin. Cleanse yourself, repent, and do it over. Beatrice-sama. Beatrice-sama, please, forgive him. I think Cannon-kun has repented enough. Wonderful. I am generous to those who respect me. Don't screw with me. Do you think I'll accept your existence because of this cheap act? Like hell, you're a 1,000-year-old witch. Your tricks aren't 1,000 years old, they're just a sum of a century of classic tricks from the mystery genre. There's no such thing as magic. Definitely not. All of the crimes can be explained with humans and tricks. You would explain my 1,000 years with 100 years of humans. Good, good. This is precisely why I've taken a liking to you. Foolish Battler. Cut it out, Battler-kun. You can't go against the witch. Shannon started moaning, holding her cheek. Maybe she had a toothache. But apparently it wasn't a toothache after all. A slight redness spread across the cheek Shannon was holding. It looked like the redness was causing Shannon unbearable pain. Her fingers were pressing in against her cheek, and drops of sweat appeared all over her body. Shannon. Shannon! Hang in there! Hang in there! What's going on? Damn it, what the hell is that red stuff? It expanded rapidly, covering half of Shannon's face. Then, the stupid dunce Battler finally realized. Please, Battler-kun. Please believe in Beatrice. I beg you. Because you won't believe. Because you won't believe. The magic is dissolving! For the first time in his life, Battler heard that sound, like a pomegranate splitting. The red splay even landed on Battler's face. Poor Shannon's face had been split in half, and her last horrible moments in that storehouse were repeated once again. Shannon! Shannon! Damn it! Damn it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Don't humiliate the dead! Don't humiliate the dead! Yeah. This time, the redness spread across George's entire body. It was like the beautiful cloud drawn by milk when it's poured into black tea. It spread out and extended across his entire body. As it did, it seemed to give George increasingly greater pain. Looking at this bizarre spectacle, Battler was petrified as he frankly thought with his pitifully clumsy imagination about the nature of the strange death George and the rest were experiencing. Eventually, that redness reached the nearby Jessica as well. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! What did Anarchy do? What did Jessica do? Just stop it! Battler, don't let the witch break your spirit. Deny her. Erase her. As long as at least one person denies her, she's an illusion that can't exist. Are you okay, Jessica? But Anarchy! George was no longer recognizable as a human. He looked like the pile of leftover meat after the good, delicious meat had been scraped off to be cooked. The only thing that even resembled a human was the shape of his lower jaw and ribcage, and it was clear that Jessica, who was covered with a steadily strengthening redness, was approaching the same fate. Ew. Battler. Quickly, believe in Beatrice. If you don't, everyone's magic will dissolve. Maria, it's all over your body, too. I revive all the dead with my magic, but as long as you don't believe, that magic will hold no true power. But I'm sure that a man like yourself won't surrender to something like this, right? Battler, we didn't want to doubt our friends. We refused to face reality and gave in to the witch. But, Battler, you won't give in to the witch. Jessica! Jessica! Poor Jessica met the same end. Just like George, she ended up like a butcher's leftovers. George and Jessica were now so destroyed, melted, and mixed up that it was impossible to tell them apart. Battler, don't cry. Beatrice will restore the dead over and over. So there's nothing to be sad about. So, even if we die, we're still just fine. The redness began eating into the whole of Maria's body. The foolish Battler watched and screamed. I won't forgive you. I'll never forgive you. A witch? Magic? I'll risk my body and soul to deny you. No matter what happens, I can't accept you. Now that you've gone so far to piss me off, I'll never forgive you. I won't forgive. I won't forgive. I definitely won't forgive you. You'll regret making me, Ushirimiya Battler, your enemy. I'll deny you no matter what. No matter how baffling things get, it can all be explained by humans. I'll erase every cell of from this world. Well said. Battler, was it? That's just the thing to divert me from my 1,000 years of boredom. Come, explain. Try explaining it all with humans and tricks, and learn how lowly humans are. Let's see if what humanity has built up in 100 years can oppose my 1,000 years. That's what will make forcing you to submit so pleasant. So tell me, you who call yourself Battler, what about Maria's letter? How the 6 were killed, the shutter, the receipt seal, the closed room with the chain, Cannon in the boiler room, Genji and the others in the lounge, Natsuhi's suicide, the riddle of the epitaph, the location of the hidden gold. Yes, Battler, why don't you show me the power of humans? Ah! I can't read those. Good questions. Indeed. Well read it. All those ideas that Battler was saying, I think that's exactly how it is. I'm not sure if I should say it, but I'll at the very least write it down. I think the biggest trick is the room with Eva Hideyoshi. Yeah, that's the goal, that's the plan. I've never read it, and why would you read a story halfway through? Now? Tea party? Alright. Oh yeah, the first one, the 6, I think is actually a very simple trick. And there's only 2 parts to it that are actually true. The second part, the one with the locked room and the chain, I think it's all a trick. And then the cannon. And Cannon and Kinzo are a little different. I think they're switched. But it's still... Cannon is the one I'm hung up on the most. It's either one way or the other. It's just 50-50 for me. Addition of new elements. Question mark has been added. You can find this new feature on the title screen. Seventh expansion, The Witch Home. Manga Gamer. Welcome to the tea party of those who are not human. 8 chapters, 4 questions arcs, and 4 answers arcs. It's... well, I stream most every day in 2 hours, so it's no real biggie for me. Gives me something to do. I enjoy doing this. But that'll be pretty cool. Maybe I'll, like, take up Fate next time. Fate Stay Night. I've already read that one, which is pretty cool, but that one gets way out there. 7 Harry Potter books only have 1,000,000 words, so as you can see, well, as long as they good, I don't mind long. We may just be here for a while then, though. Anyway, welcome to the tea party of those who are not human. Episode 1? I'm just looking through these for a sec. Alright. Sorry for all the bells. Episode 1. Huh? Alright. Here we go. What sort of black tea shall I prepare next? Allow me to display every refined tea that ever was and ever shall be. Dried plum black tea. The kind that goes for 200 yen a pack. For 1,000 years I have been fond of black tea, but I did not know of such a thing. I will never tire of living in this world. Beato, you don't have to display such hostility. I am just a wandering witch. I didn't come with the intention of violating the rules of your territory. Hostility? I bear nothing of the sort. I am just terribly concerned with seeing to it that the legendary witch, Lady Bernkastel, is well attended to. You misunderstand. I am powerless. Before a witch such as you, who possesses the dreadful power to kill an individual 100 times, I am completely powerless. That a powerless lady witch like you possesses a power that none can approach is what is truly terrifying. After all, that great witch, Lady Lambdadilta, was dethroned by you alone. I only won an endurance contest. She simply got tired. That is not what Lady Lambdadilta said, though. Too much humility can be unseemly, Lady Bernkastel. Like, really? Jesus. Alright, well, bring it on! I'm up for the challenge. That girl has a dreadful power. The power to kill an individual without fail. However, without fail doesn't exist in this world. No matter how many times you divide 1, you can never reach 0. That girl has the power to bring the odds of failure down to almost exactly 0. The power to give rise to almost perfect certainty. I hope I never have to fight such a terrifying witch again. However, you have the power to cause success without fail, as long as the odds are not 0. Though you say without fail doesn't exist in this world, you possess an infallible power yourself. How very terrifying. The power to kill an individual endlessly. I think you're the more terrifying one. You jest. From your point of view, mine is but a trifling power. This is most certainly what one would call empty praise. Call it flattery to make up for the cost of staying here. I am a fleeing traveler who crosses the fragments, continually running from boredom. I simply came around because I heard you'd started something interesting. Have no doubts that I will choose to leave as soon as you are no longer interesting. I, Beatrice, am deeply and humbly delighted to have the great Lady Bernkastel as an observer. Probably. And so, your impressions? Lambdadilta is terrifying because of her cruelty, but she's a girl I can understand. You do seem to be capable of affection, but I can't understand you at all. That makes you much more terrifying than her. Not here. There we are. The profiles. Beatrice, the Golden Witch who has lived for 1,000 years. She has surpassed the limits of humans, and, like demons, will sometimes appear in response to the summons made by humans, to offer her power in exchange for a price. She likes black tea and ice cream. She hates boredom and people who deny her existence. Bernkastel, the Witch of the Fragments, who has lived 1,000 years. It is said she lives in a world where the concepts of fate and possibilities can be visualized. She observes the fates of humans and sometimes interferes. In other words, sometimes she is you, and sometimes she is your only friend. Understand? She likes wine and spicy foods. She hates boredom and people who never learn. I was wondering what the hell that button would do. I think she's much more terrifying than her. I am fickle by nature. Do forgive me. Besides, I believe you also enjoy entrusting your fate to the roll of fickle dice, right, Lady Burncastle? When I roll the dice, I have a roll I clearly want to get. And like you, on the other hand, never let the dice fall from your hand. So, whatever the roll might have been, you've never disappointed. Whatever roll the dice show you, yours satisfies, without fail. In that sense, you far surpass me. You're one I really don't want to fight with. Inside of you, there's nothing but 0. That's why I can't win against you with my power. It's the worst compatibility. Perhaps Lambda Delta, on the other hand, had a good compatibility against you. Then she would be able to kill your endless nature. Oh yes, witches truly are the best people to enjoy black tea with. One doesn't get bored. Then, I'm relieved. Boredom is the only poison that can kill me. So, don't kill me, okay? Lady Beatrice, Endless Witch. If such is your wish, I, Beatrice, shall show you an even better time. In that case, wouldn't it be best if I brought the next chessboard in right away? It seems the next tale would do more for you than another cup of black tea. Just wait for a moment. Something troublesome seems to have taken a liking to you. I'd really like to lend you my power, but as you just heard, that girl's power and mine have a very bad compatibility. Unfortunate as that may be, but you really are pitiful, so I'll help you out just a bit. First of all, about that girl. She does have the name Beatrice, but that doesn't necessarily mean she is one individual woman. Get what I mean? In other words, she's not some human. Her existence is a personification of the rules of this world. To beat her, you have to expose the rules of this world and unravel them. Perhaps this can be likened to learning the rules of chess by watching a game. First, take a good look at the chessboard. Then learn the movements and rolls of the pieces. Then look for the conditions required to win at her game. When you've managed to reveal all these things, her heart will be exposed. After that, you can rip it apart or crush it as you please. I got parts of it. I am being quite generous. In the past, when I had a human body, it took me 100 years to notice even this much. This is my meager farewell gift to you, the pitiful one captured by Beato. It's just like a spoon. A spoon can be used for more than just drinking soup. You can use it to dig through the prison you're locked in, or as a weapon to gouge the witch's eyes out. Of course, you can also use the spoon to continually sip the watery soup inside your eternal cell. Don't get the wrong idea. I have no intention of becoming your ally. I do feel empathy for you, but I won't help you. It's like I'm sitting in front of the television yelling at you on the other side, even though my voice won't reach you. So you understand that I am a witch, right? I intend to enjoy this endless tale that Beato is going to weave until I tire of it. But that alone won't hold my interest. That's why I'll lend you my power. It's all so that I don't get tired of this. I am the cruelest witch in the world. Whoever the opponent may be, I'll make them surrender with certainty. Even if it's Beatrice, the endless witch, okay? You are my game piece. Give it your best shot. I'll give you advice sometimes, out of her sight. Don't bore me, okay? All of the rules and pieces of the game, huh? I think I figured out some of the moves, but I have a problem figuring out the whys. The Witch Hunt. Bilingual HD version. Thanks to dozens of fans who directly supported to the English translation, as well as the thousands of stuff. Addition of a new game board. The next episode's lock has been removed. Addition of new features. You can find these new features on the title screen. Alright. Could be very confusing now. Hey, title screen changed. Take a look back on your recent stay. We hope this will help you better recall the events of the past 2 days. Episode 1 tips. Oh, okay, this is what I skipped over. Okay, and, they all died. They all died. George, Natsuhi, George, Jessica, Maria. George, missing on the 10th twilight. After he acknowledged the existence of the witch and prostrated himself, the witch invited him to the Golden Land. Lucia Maria Jessica, missing on the 10th twilight. After she acknowledged the existence of the witch and prostrated herself, invited her to the Golden Land. It was, Battler. Missing on the 10th twilight. Will the witch invite this man who denied her existence to the Golden Land? Winchester M1894 sawed-off. A sawed-off custom version of the rifle manufactured during the golden age of Winchesters. This special model more than makes up for its shorter lethal range by its portability and old-time cool factor. It can even be fired as quickly as a pistol if one works the lever action skillfully enough. Furthermore, any true lover of old Western dramas can't help but be attracted to the one-handed reload made possible by its characteristic lever handle. To match the Kinzu's personal preferences, it was made to handle 45 long Colt bullets. It holds 4+1 rounds. I wanted the stuff at the end, where whoever, they asked the rewards they got. I don't know. Alright, Witch's Letter 2, Epitaph, raise my name, Alright. I knew she was gonna be put there. Alright. This is the general tip thing. And like the entire left half of the all but the kids are alive at the end of episode 1. Alright. Oh, there's a resurrect button. I didn't see that. Alright, so episode 2, Turn of the Golden Witch. Good morning. The Golden Witch eagerly awaits your arrival. Please do grant her that wish. Were you able to get a good rest and perfect your strategy? The witch expects a lot from you and is more than ready to launch an assault right from the start. I also look forward to seeing your strategy. The difficulty level is extreme. The witch intends to make you surrender all at once. Yay. Yeah, there was that. I'm on satellite internet, and apparently the way to get that is through a program that automatically downloads. I get stuff by pausing and resuming as I'm able to. As such, like the 5 gigs or whatever for the updated graphics and the voice acting isn't really practical for me. Yeah, that is. I was originally going for the graphics, but like I said, it's kind of like an odd bulk package. If you can find me a link to just the graphics and I can install them manually, that would be nice, but apparently it's all stuck together in one big pile. Anyway, without further ado, let's jump into episodes 2 and see where the hell I go. Apparently it's extreme difficulty right from the start. This story is very obviously fictional and fantastic in nature, and resemblance to existing individuals, organizations, locations, or instances is completely coincidental. George-sama, please look. This doesn't look so hard. They're so cute. Look, look. Shannon found a pair of hammerhead sharks swimming playfully in the tank, and looked as excited as a grade schooler seeing an aquarium for the first time. Yeah, they really are cute. He looks weird without a suit. Almost makes me want to eat them. I'd feel so sorry for them. Did you know? I hear the Japanese are the only people in the world who go to aquariums and say how delicious everything looks. Is that so? I'm sure even Americans and Italians would want to eat these. Not really. Those clothes look good on you. Really. Shannon clutched at her chest with both hands in embarrassment. She apparently felt like she was being made fun of for wearing those clothes she wasn't used to. Though George's face didn't show it, he'd actually said something so completely unexpected that it surprised even him. And he was as embarrassed as Shannon on the inside. However, when he saw how embarrassed Shannon was, he started to imagine he was teasing a girl he liked. and instead of embarrassment, a ticklish amusement welled up in him. No, he wasn't just imagining it. He really was teasing the girl he liked. Before now, he wouldn't have expected to hear a line like that anywhere these days, not even in a manga or something. In fact, if he'd seen another couple acting like this, his first instinct would be to start throwing rocks at them. But even if someone were to start throwing rocks at us now, I'm sure they'd be no different from confetti celebrating our relationship. Now, I can't even remember those lonely days, when I felt jealous of couples who were completely oblivious to their surroundings. To use an old-fashioned phrase, these really are rose-colored days I'm living in. I'm so entranced that I barely notice that massive tank in the world's largest aquarium anymore. Instead, all I see are the expressions flitting across Shannon's face as she plays with the fish. It's amazing, isn't it? It's my first time seeing a tank large enough for a whale to swim in. I heard this tank is the biggest selling point here, and that it's the biggest in the whole world. Is that so? That's amazing. It's really wonderful. It doesn't even look like a tank at all, more like they sliced off a part of the sea with a knife and brought it here. You're right. This really is a little sea. Despite its size, I hadn't thought of the tank as anything more than a tank. That's why I found her metaphor so interesting. No matter how far humans broaden their experiences, they always end up viewing the world through the lens of their own values. Maybe that's why it's so interesting to interact with people who have different worldviews. I voiced my thoughts on this. He responded. True, this may not be the real sea, but if those little guys swimming in there believe it's the sea, then that's what it is. Even though they're inside a finite tank? The sea is finite too. Then again, even if the sea were infinite, how much could we cover in our whole lives? I'm sure it'd be only a minuscule fraction of the sea. You're right. It's ironic, isn't it? Even though the world is so vast, most of us humans live our lives without ever leaving our own country. If the inhabitants of a place believe they're living in a complete world, then even the bottom of a narrow well can be a wonderful world, an entire ocean. At least to the frogs that live there. Shannon, who spent her days as a servant on a small island 10 kilometers in circumference called Rokkenjima, said that with a smile. Turn of the Golden Witch. Oh, chessboard Turn of the Golden Witch. Oh, Ushiromiya Battler. I can't do anything. Ushiromiya George, Ushiromiya Jessica, Ushiromiya Maria. That is actually a pretty big tank, if those are the people there. Ushiromiya Kinzo, Ushiromiya Kraus, Ushiromiya Eva, Ushiromiya Natsuhi, Ushiromiya Hideyoshi. Ushiromiya Rudolph, Ushiromiya Kiri, Ushiromiya Rosa. Probably not going to get too far in this episode since there's only about half hour left, but Nanjo Terumasa, Renui Genji, Shannon, Kennen, Koda Toshiro, Kumasawa Chiyo. Beatrice. Umineko no Naku something name. The 7th expansion presents Welcome to Rokkenjima, When They Cry 3. Plan. I don't know what quite is in store, but apparently a choice for the witch is buffet food. After we finished walking through the whole aquarium, we had a small late afternoon lunch at a restaurant with a nice view. The World Buffet has the power to make any boy's heart leap. First names, common family names though. Alright. Yeah, interesting. I never quite thought of it like that. I was like that myself once. Oh, the Shannon beside me, this buffet felt different. I couldn't shamefully pile on only the things I liked. I was, how should I put it, worried about my appearance and chose a menu suited for a snob. Toast, salad, and coffee. If I'd been by myself, I would have made a pile of oily stuff like yakisoba, mashed potatoes, gratin, and so on. Shannon, is that going to be enough for you? If it is, then I guess we men are animals with really bad fuel efficiency. That's not what I... On Shannon's tray, there was only tea and salad. Maybe the mere fact that I thought she was a whole plate short proved I was thinking with a man's stomach. Actually, I should be asking you the same thing. Don't you think men should eat a little bit more than that? I imagine you normally eat much more for lunch, right? Oh, right. Dang. Come to think of it, you already know how much I eat normally because of the meals I've had at the head family's household. That's right. I was worried you might have an upset stomach today. Shannon was kind enough to guess that I wasn't feeling well. Looks like my stupid attempts to show off made her worry. Apparently my stomach wasn't going to let me show off any longer. Okay, I'll confess. I was just trying to look cool. I held back just because I was with a girl. I thought so. Considering how much you eat during the lunch at the family conferences, I thought this wasn't nearly enough. Please, don't be so reserved, and feel free to go choose another dish. Not fair only for me to be embarrassed. What about you, Shannon? How will you be able to keep up with the Ushimiya family workload on such a sparse diet? Shannon fell silent and blushed bright red. Apparently I wasn't the only one showing off. When I realized that, my embarrassment disappeared completely. Oh, so that's not enough for you either, is it? Yeah, usually a bit more than this for lunch. The woman's stomach is made of magic, so this is enough. We've both been showing off to each other. Let's not hold back anymore, shall we? I smiled to show that I wouldn't make fun of her anymore and rose from my seat. After finally coming to Okinawa, it would be a waste if we didn't eat some bitter melon. I'll go get some fried bitter melon or something. Shannon, come with me. Come on, come on. Yes. To anyone watching us, we might seem like an incredibly charming and embarrassing couple. But it's only after becoming a couple that you realize. To us, this exchange of words is everything, our entire world. That's why no matter how much everyone else stares at us with blank expressions, we never notice. Indeed, at this age, I finally understand the feelings of couples who want to endlessly flirt without any regard for their surroundings. After I returned with a plate piled up with fried food, Shannon arrived with a pretty cake. While laughing at her fake stoicism, we resumed our lunch. Even though it's a restaurant with a view of the sea, it's so cloudy. Luckily, our window seat gave us a view of the seaside scenery so grandiose that it extended even beyond our field of vision. However, because of the cloudy sky, we were only seeing a fraction of its usual beauty. That's right. If it were clear, we'd undoubtedly see a deep blue sea. Yep. I'll bet you're already used to the sea around Rokkenjima, but the deep blue of the sea here would surely have been a sight to see. It's a real shame. Oh, but no matter how blue the sea is at work, it might as well be gray to me. But I'm not working today, so, apparently, Shannon was doing her best to say an embarrassing line. But I didn't let her get off easy. Sea cats in Japanese. I was wondering about that, but yeah, I knew Neko was cat, but I didn't quite see that. So close. If only you'd said, when watching the sea alone with you, George-sama, it looks deep blue no matter how gray it is. I'd have given you full marks and a prize. I'm sorry. Want to hear what a prize was? If you don't mind telling me. No, I won't tell you. That is pretty good, though. That's not fair. Jessica ate them all. Yes, she did. When I was in elementary school, I was always the kid who got bullied. When everyone teased me, I grew nervous and speechless to the delight of the bullies. Back then, I wondered why everyone teased me. But now, teasing Shannon like this, I understand why. This is so much fun. I can play with her emotions however I please, and I can have them all to myself. Right now, I can't think of any greater pleasure. That's why I have to go easy on her. It's not as though I want to make her feel embarrassed and upset, so I decided to be nice and change the subject. Best not to be too obstinate. When you finish your lunch, do you want to take a walk on the beach? Maybe the clouds will clear up and we'll get a beautiful view of the sea. That's right. I want to go see it. Yeah, let's do it. But that cake really does look delicious. Maybe I'll go get one of those too. You mustn't. If you eat cake after eating so much, you'll get fat. It looks like Hideyoshi-sama's blood is pretty thick in you, George-sama. You'll get chubby if you don't take care. Shannon, you won't stop liking me if I get fat, will you? After all, I wouldn't stop liking you if you got fat. I didn't mean it that way. If you don't take good care of your body, it'll be bad for your health. Oh. Mother warns me all the time, too. I wonder if I'll have to take up Tai Chi Quan or something like she does and get some exercise. When going on a diet, it's better to start by rethinking your eating habits rather than just exercising all the time. Apparently, the exercise only helps if you're eating well first. In other words, you're telling me to hold off on the cake, huh? Then I guess I'll just have to gaze at you while you stuff your cheeks with it, Shannon. A whole cake is probably too much. But maybe just half of one would be okay. Here, it's really delicious. Shannon cut her own cake and tried to move half to my dessert plate. I had no doubt that she wanted to share the delicious cake's flavor with me. However, I meanly pulled the plate away from her. She blinked in surprise. She couldn't seem to figure out if I was refusing the cake or not. So I winked, opened my mouth, and said, "Ah." So that's what you really wanted. Jeez, you're such a pampered child, George-sama. Okay, say ah. With a partly embarrassed, partly exasperated face, Shannon offered the cake to me with a fork. Chomp. It tasted like a cheap chocolate cake you might find anywhere. And yet, it was exceptional. Because eating cake is such an embarrassing way, as if we were a couple of perfect fools, had been my dream for many years. It made this cake's flavor heavenly. If the earth is destined to end, I wouldn't have any regrets if it happened right now. It's such a moment of bliss. I think they're saying if you just exercise and don't eat, it doesn't work as well properly. You have to eat right and exercise. I guess. After that, we gathered shells, ran from waves, and enjoyed each other's company while walking along the beach. In the end, the clouds never parted. However, we both believed that the sea reflected in our eyes was a deep blue. Somehow, I'm so happy that it scares me. You do say that from time to time. What is it you're afraid of? I'm a servant of the Ushimiya family. For someone like me to be walking like this with a member of the family. It just felt like it was too much for me. I'm also surprised. I didn't just meet you yesterday or today, Shannon. We've known each other for years now. However, we can only meet during those family meetings that only happen a few times a year. Back then, I couldn't even imagine having the sort of relationship where I could spend time with you like this. It was the same for you too, right? I did imagine it. No, I mean, maybe I should call it a kind of daydream. I did think about what it'd be like having a relationship with you, a boy who's always so gentlemanly and considerate, but it was only ever a fantastic daydream. Then we must have your believing heart to thank for our relationship. Magic dwells in the power of love, so I'm sure that magic brought us together. You're right. I really do think it was magic. But, that's not actually true. As you kept looking more and more beautiful every year, you became a larger and larger presence in my mind too. If the same thing happened to you, then the fact that we're here today is simply an inevitable consequence rather than something caused by magic or a miracle. No, a miracle did happen. George-sama. He stopped walking down the beach, gazing out beyond the sea. A miracle? No, it was magic. It happened. I was bewildered by that slightly mysterious phrase, which I sometimes heard her use. Magic, you say? Yes, magic. I doubt you'd believe me if I explained, so I won't. But this bit of magic definitely had the power to grant the miracle that brought us together. Are you talking about some kind of ritual? Yeah, you might call it something like that. Except that it really was magic, not just some ritual. Hmm? Maybe it's all girls, not just Shannon, who tend to treat encounters as miracles or coincidences. For a man like me, an encounter with a girl is 70% hard work to try and make her like you, 20% courage, and 10% coincidence. The part that means everything to her is a much smaller factor in my mind. Maybe that way of thinking itself is calculating and typical of men. But if I said that out loud, it might dissolve all kinds of magic. To my mind, there were lots of coincidences, compromises, and expended effort on both sides before we gained the relationship we have today. At the culmination of all of that, we get to spend this joyful time together. And if she wants to call that magic, I've got no objections to her choice of words. So I'll stand up for that magic. You're right. If the same fate were repeated 100 times, maybe you and I could get into a relationship like this only one of those times. In the other instances, even though we'd be aware of each other, maybe would have only maintained a reserved relationship after all this time. From the perspective of those others, me's and you's, you and I are undoubtedly in a miraculous relationship right now. That's not what I meant. It really was magic. No matter how often you tell men something like this, they'll never believe it. Cannon-kun didn't believe me at all either. I believe you. I'd hate for the magic to fade away because I didn't believe in it. George-sama. In a small voice, I apologize for saying something that trivialized her magic. Shannon seemed to be glad to hear me say that. After all, if two people believe in the magic of love, it becomes eternal. Oh, that's right. I was wondering if you'd be willing to agree to a little whim of mine. Yes? What is it? You call me George-sama, right? It's not that I dislike it, but would you consider not calling me that anymore? Of course, you have to keep up your appearances with the Ushimiya family, so I wouldn't force you to do so during your everyday routine on Rokkenjima. But when we're alone, I'd rather you didn't call me that. Yeah, let's make that a rule. A rule? What would happen if I violated that rule? Maybe we should have some kind of punishment game if you break the rule. Yes, what should it be? Wanna hear? No, I don't want to hear. I'll have to think about what it should be. Okay. George. Don. Yeah. I love the way that sounds. I'm so happy, Shannon. I also have another name. It's Sayo. I see. The rule's gotta be fair, after all. I'll follow it too, and from now on I'll call you Sayo. Okay? Sayo? Yes. A bit. I held her shoulder and drew her close. When I forcefully pulled her delicate body towards me, she dove into my chest like a doll. As I held her head in my arms, we both looked at the horizon. What a deep blue sea. I'm so happy we get to look at the sea, just the two of us. Me too. I'm so glad to have a chance to look at this deep blue sea with you. As we gazed at the gray sea and a light rain began to sprinkle down, we kept listening to each other's heartbeats. This is also kind of awkward if you consider the title of my video right now. I realized that when you said that. Having a nice romantic afternoon on the beach with the title, Everyone is Dead. The sound of waves flows into my ears. No, it's the sound of an enraged sea. My body, bathed in painfully cold splashes, does not allow me to forget. It won't let me forget the memories of the day my old fate was broken and smashed. Once, tomorrows were literally like nothing, like looking into a mirror. All I ever saw there was the person I already was. Tomorrow was absolutely no different from today. That was my old fate. But then, for the first time, I saw a different fate beyond the mirror. The witch whispers to me. She tempts me to take a bite out of the fruit of knowledge. She torments me, saying I'll be furniture as long as I stay in God's paradise. So I decided to choose the path of knowing love and try to become a person. Those days were like sweet honey, but at the time I didn't realize that they'd be the start of a new kind of suffering. I've arrived at a small island on a motorboat I've only just learned how to use. No, this can hardly be called a small island. It's little more than a rock jutting out of the water. On this rock is a torii and a small shrine. It was probably built to worship the guardian deity of Rokkenjima. Even though I don't know exactly what it signifies, I know it has to be something holy. Even in a place like this, I've got to take just one more look around to see if there's anyone who might get mad at me for coming. I see nothing but the stormy sea, the stormy ocean, Najima looking into the distance, and the waves breaking against Rokkenjima's steep cliffside. I ready myself, timidly approach the small shrine, and take the mirror that lies there as an offering. The mirror looks old, cloudy, and dirty. That would probably make any normal mirror seem horribly cheap. However, since the mirror has been placed in this small shrine, its appearance seems to give some sort of divine quality to it. And there's one thing I can tell. This is no simple mirror. It may seem like an old, battered mirror to a non-believer like myself, but it has a great significance. Is it really okay to break this after being captivated by honeyed words? No, this isn't really a mirror. This is the life I couldn't escape until today. My fate. I'll break it. I'll smash it and seize the life that lies beyond this mirror. If I don't smash it, my life will be a pair of facing mirrors forever. Nothing will ever change in the slightest. The witch whispers to me. She tempts me to take a bite of the fruit of knowledge. Or maybe I've already tasted of that fruit. After all, I've already experienced those maddening emotions. Just as Adam and Eve felt compelled to pluck their fig leaves, I can no longer go on without breaking this mirror. I've struggled with conflicting emotions for many days before this moment. Inside my heart, the virtuous part of me kept on fighting the past that sides with the witch. And now, here I am. There's a part of me that's here right now, win or lose. There's only one thing I know. To obtain something, you must be ready to lose something. Cowards who don't risk anything, who never try to change anything, will never be given the key that opens a path to a new future. That key is already in my hands. And that key is to break this, to smash it. Is there any other effort I can make, as furniture imprisoned in Rokkenjima? No. This is the only way for me. Come, have courage. I'll free myself from being mere furniture, and by accepting a new kind of suffering, I'll become human. This is surely a small, yet large trial I must impose on myself. Come on, smash it. I'll smash to pieces the eternally unchanging fate that imprisons me. I raise the mirror high. I think back on the days of conflict that came before, and finishing my reflections in the blink of an eye, I throw it down. The thunder roars, crying out against me for my outrageous act. It truly is the hatred of angels trying to banish me from eternal paradise. I look down at the mirror tumbling at my feet, broken in 2 equal parts, and after making sure I've accomplished my task, I scream up at the raging skies. I've kept my promise. Now, it's your turn to keep yours, right? Thunder roars once more. I've already been banished from paradise, so I'll have to struggle on my own if I want to live. The witch told me, that is a single element of this world. To lose it means losing the world. Like how a canteen with a hole in the bottom can't be filled no matter how much water you pump into it. I've kept my promise. Now it's your turn to keep yours. Please, grant my wish. Beatrice-sama. Seventh expansion presents Neener Neener Witch. Alright. Probably shouldn't do that. I'm gonna be cursed now. That's how you break things with style. Indeed. This is the old artwork. It's a bit weird. When I was trying to figure out the what was going on in episode 1, I looked at the original art. There's an option to swap between different styles. And this is very simple, but I think I noticed something that was maybe important, or could have just been completely irrelevant. And it happens to be with the eagle, one-winged eagle symbol. I have a theory. I just think it may be important, But it could be an entire red herring. I have no idea. Welcome to Rokkenjima. I had an original theory for it. It didn't pan out. It was not true. Or maybe not. I don't know. My mind wandered back to the days when I could barely imagine the happiness I have now. I was a middle schooler at the time. It's got an aesthetic to it, but it could be better. Yeah. I wouldn't say ugly, but it's kind of bad. A normal girl who thought about love as much as you'd expect of someone at that age. Oh. But in truth, it was wrong of me to have that dream. After all, I am furniture. Furniture is nothing more than a tool, not a human. As a person less than human, simply receiving an education was an enormous blessing. So in reality, even thinking about falling in love was more than I deserved. The Ushirimiya Family Conference was a customary event held every October, but relatives sometimes visited at other times. Of course, they didn't come just to drink tea. On this day, Eva's family was visiting the head family of Rokkenjima. The 3 members of Krause's family and the 3 members of Eva's family had gathered in the parlor, and were having a friendly chat about recent events. Genji had supposedly told Kinzo of Eva's family's arrival, but he still hadn't come down. He was probably immersed in his research and couldn't spare the time. This often happens, so the others waited patiently for their fickle father to arrive. Oh, how promising. Make sure you work hard under your father building the skills you'll need if you want to lend him a hand soon. Thank you very much. I've learned countless precious things from the many experienced people Father has introduced me to, and these were all things I could never have learned in school. When you're in school, it's not math and language you're learning. What they're really teaching you is the right outlook and attitude for learning more. That's what they should be teaching you, but they don't nowadays. Once you've got that base, you can finally start a long period of study that'll last your entire life. People who don't get this end up spending their whole lives as fools who never learn. Just getting full marks in math and language won't do you any good at your company. Indeed, that is exactly right. Hideyoshi-san, your style of education never fails to impress. George isn't quite a full man yet. He'd better always keep that in mind and embrace his studies. Stop it, dear. George is always giving it his all, right? Truly admirable. I wish our Jessica would learn from him. Sheesh. Are you still holding a grudge about that test score? I'm studying for the tests the best I can. At least, don't say it here. Pissing me off. Once people started praising George for his diligence, the conversation usually turned to Jessica, who hated studying. Jessica made an openly displeased face as though she'd known this would happen. My. Schoolwork aside, it seems Jessica had better learn to choose her words a little more gracefully. How improper for the single daughter who bears the weight of the Ushirimiya family crest. Come now, she's quite appealing in her own way, isn't she? Times change. The time when we had to act all modest to entertain men ended long ago. That's right. I knew you'd understand, Aunt Eva. My headache is truly trying today. Are you okay? Natsuhi, you're looking a bit pale. Thank you, I'm fine. Still, time really has flown. It feels like just yesterday when you would run around half naked by the beach and come back soaked. Wasn't your Jessica-chan the same? And now she's a lady who fusses over how to put on makeup. I see you focused on your eyebrows. You really look cute today. Thank you very much. No one noticed, so I was a bit unsure of myself. A full smile rose to Jessica's face as the result of her own studies were finally appreciated. Eva smiled back in the same way. Then she turned that smile towards Natsuhi. Come on, Natsuhi-ne-san. You must take notice of small changes in your own child. Or Jessica-chan. You probably wanted your mother to notice first, didn't you? No problem. That person never notices anything. Jessica, I cannot condone you speaking of your mother in such a fashion. Apologize. Later, I will speak to you at length about your language. If you don't want kids getting in your way, just say so. I'm gonna take a step outside. It's getting stuffy in here. Jessica. Jessica was still at the age where tests and entrance exams were pretty nerve-wracking. Recently, she'd clashed often with her mother, who was enthusiastic about her education. Excuse me. Kid? Jessica, who was trying to leave the parlor in a bad mood, bumped into Shannon, who was pushing a serving cart filled with tea. Ah, Shannon. No need to worry about my tea. I'm just gonna go wander around the garden. M'lady. Shannon, the tea is getting cold. Serve it quickly. My apologies. Shannon hadn't actually done anything wrong, but Natsuhi, who felt like something shameful to herself had been shown, lashed out at her emotionally. That was something that often happened in the Ushirimiya family, but it seemed Shannon wasn't strong-willed enough to just accept it and move on. She shrank back and cowered while serving the tea. She had the unfortunate habit of making more mistakes when she cowered. Her pitiful appearance ruined the peaceful atmosphere that had existed a moment before. It wasn't really Shannon's fault, but she thought she might be the source and felt the pressure on her chest. Her shaking fingers made the utensils clang, and you couldn't have called it graceful, not even just to be polite. The more pitiful she appeared, the greater the silence grew. The more irritated Natsuhi looked, and the more Shannon cowered. Shannon's thin neck felt like it was being suffocated and choked by the reaper known as stress. At that time, George spoke brightly, blowing away the stiff atmosphere. This smells nice. What kind of black tea is it? This is... No, don't say it. I'll guess. It's a very distinctive smell, so I probably know it. Is it Earl Grey? I think it probably is. Yeah, I'll bet it's Earl Grey. When you get back to the kitchen, check the tin. Oh, George-kun, you know a lot about black tea, don't you? One of the company presidents who looked after me was very knowledgeable about black tea. I managed to pick up a little while listening to him discuss the subject. Oh yeah, the president of Okanogi's Foods. Yep, that sort of trivia is that guy's specialty. The names of black teas often refer to the places they're made, right? So, did this come from a place with that name? From what I've heard, there was a person called Earl Grey in England long ago, and it was named after him. Furthermore, this distinctive smell doesn't come from tea leaves, but from a fruit called a bergamot, which is a relative of the mandarin orange. Is that so? I never knew that. Learning things like that makes tea taste all the more delicious. Same thing goes for alcohol and cigarettes. Luxury items have a taste of romance. Knowing stuff like this deepens the taste. It's the same as reading the list of benefits on a medicine bottle. Natsuhi Nason, you should try reading the explanation of your favorite headache medicine someday. That's a wonderful idea. Try it tonight. Yes, I'll do so. Jen and John, try opening that pot. You should find some dried bergamot mixed in with the tea leaves. Ah, yes. It's in there. Something like dried orange peels is mixed in. Yes, that's probably bergamot. The main ingredient in Earl Grey's scent. The scent is vivid, so you might expect the taste to be intense, but it's still gentle and easy to drink. If you make it with milk, the scent should become more mild, which works great. If there's anything left in the pot after you've poured for everyone, you really should try drinking it with milk. Ah, yes. Thank you very much. George gave her a small wink. Shannon finally realized that George had kind-heartedly set aside the tense atmosphere in the room, and he had done it for the sake of Shannon herself, a cowering servant. The Ushirimiya family did not pamper their servants. Any display of awkwardness would be harshly punished, but it was rare for them to be given a helping hand like this. Thanks to George's kindness, Shannon managed to regain control of herself and finished serving tea without further incident. As long as she stayed calm, she could carry out her work elegantly and flawlessly. By the time the black tea was laid out on the table and its elegant scent filled the room, the atmosphere had completely returned to its former peaceful mood, and everyone praised George's knowledge. Shannon wanted to thank him for saving her, but it didn't look like she would get the chance, so she decided to at least thank him inside her heart, praying to God that George would hear it as she pushed the serving cart away. George Nissan always lends a helping hand at times like that. By changing the topic or something. Shannon and Jessica were in the rose garden. Jessica still hadn't returned to the parlor after getting into a fight with her mother and was nonchalantly killing time here. When I think back on it, I get the feeling this wasn't the first time he's helped me like that. Whenever I made a careless mistake and George was around, I'm pretty sure he'd always naturally smooth things over and restore harmony. Maybe it wasn't something as direct as picking up a fork that had been dropped, but that was his way of caring. Even the servants have their pride. They want to fix their own mistakes by themselves, and if a guest lends them a hand, they'll lose face. He's really good at reading between the lines and stuff like that happens. Well, I guess it's kind of like an art to him. That guy's more of a show-off than he looks. That's not true. I think he's a really wonderful person. Shannon, you haven't fallen in love with George Nissan, have you? For once, Shannon had disagreed with Jessica in a slightly forceful tone, which immediately caught Jessica's attention. No, that's not it, I think. Come to think of it, I've hardly heard any stories about George Nissan in love. I think I remember hearing him say that family-oriented girls were his type, didn't I? Sweet, that fits you perfectly, Shannon. It does? How could... I'm not, suitable for such a thing. Not suitable? Like hell you aren't. You've known him so long you're practically a childhood friend. They say that when you start from a natural relationship where you don't think of others as a member of the opposite sex, things start to move pretty fast once you finally start thinking about it. There's no doubt. Jessica loved teen magazines with this kind of story, and she was always getting excited talking about that kind of thing with the others, with her friends. She was very quick to pick up on love stories like this, so this wasn't the first time Shannon had been exposed to this kind of story. But this certainly was the first time she'd started thinking of George as a member of the opposite sex. She was furniture, while George was an honest guest, an honored guest, and a member of the Ushirmiya family. Until now, she'd assumed that even imagining any deeper relationship with him would be impermissible, so she hadn't thought of it. Since it was someone else's problem, Jessica poked fun at it, seeming to enjoy herself. It was all Shannon could do to hide her blushing cheeks. If George were to appear at a time like that, she'd have no chance of keeping her cool. They saw George come out from the entrance hall of the mansion. It looked like he'd seen them as well. He headed over, waving his hand. Shannon had to frantically try and regain her ordinary composure before George reached them. Grandfather finally came down. Now they're having an adult discussion, so they chased me out. Escaping then was the right choice. It'd be better to kiss the angel of death than look at grandfather's face. You shouldn't speak that way. But you know, I think grandfather might think of us as angels of death. After all, we came here to talk about borrowing money for business reasons. That's right. This wasn't the customary annual October family conference. Eva's family had visited to apply for a business loan for the head family. Kinzo had vast resources and he lent those out to his children. Of course, they didn't borrow money because they were living in poverty. How would they expand their businesses without the vast sums they wanted to borrow? How much interest would be attached and how long would they have to repay it? This wasn't the sort of loan designed for the poor. It was a loan for those who were in the offensive. Kinzo strictly judged whether it would be worth lending out his fortune, and afterwards he strictly oversaw its use. The Rokkenjima would sometimes play host to this spectacle, where relatives visited and described their business to Kinzo. To the parents, these meetings burdened them with the strain of having to move a vast amount of money. But to Jessica, who lived on this isolated island called Rokkenjima, it was a precious opportunity to meet up with her cousins. So being able to talk with the occasional guests, such as George like this, immediately cured the bad mood she'd gotten from that fight with her mother. My family's totally stingy too. They've probably got money to spare, so why not lend it out graciously? Dad and grandfather will probably get pig-headed and act all important. It's natural to be prudent when lending money. Of course, my father will use what he borrows to expand his business, and he came with a plan that promises a solid probability of repayment. Everything else is left up to the presentation. But I really wish I could watch from the corner and learn. Mother chased me out. I'm a little let down. It seems the master still tends to scold Kraus-sama and Eva-sama as if they were kids. I'm sure she didn't want to let her son see that. As Shannon hung her head, she thought back on a scene familiar to those who worked in the mansion. Even Kraus, who acted haughtily towards his siblings, was still treated like a child by Kinzo. Shannon herself had often seen Kinzo slap Kraus and tell him to sit up straight. It was probably very embarrassing to be coerced like that at his age. Taking care to avoid being present at times like that was one of the important responsibilities held by the servants working here. However, the fact that Shannon had ended up witnessing such a scene meant that she'd messed up at least once in the past. Yes, I imagine so. Maybe figuring that out and staying away is part of a child's duty. Well, that aside, the flowers in his garden are truly splendid this year. George stretched as he said that, and he smoothly changed the subject away from one that was a little gloomy. This time, Shannon noticed it too. This person, George, could sensitively figure out the situation and always change the subject to something harmonious out of kindness. It was so smooth that Shannon hadn't noticed it until today. Today, Shannon really had to admire the way George did that. Of the boys close to Shannon's age that she'd known, nearly all had been classmates during her period of mandatory education. But they had all been young, and none had possessed the composure George had. Mere moments ago, he'd been just another guest, but right now, she couldn't help but think of him as something more. However, such thoughts were mere distractions from her work as a servant. Shannon tried to chase them away with a small shake of her head. What's up? No, it's nothing. Shall I make some tea? I'll prepare some more of that Earl Grey. So you remember the name of that tea? I'm glad. Thank you for your concern back then. Shannon was finally able to put her gratitude into words. If you wrote it out, it wouldn't be very long, but Shannon had needed a little spark of courage to say it out loud. But George played dumb. What do you mean? I don't remember doing anything I should be thanked for. He seemed to be playing the gentleman in his own way, letting her know he wasn't doing it out of a desire for gratitude. George's response seemed to be more or less exactly what Jessica had predicted. She couldn't help but burst out laughing. See? Isn't he a bit of a show-off at times like this? No, that's not... Jessica poked fun at Shannon as the latter remained silent, red-faced. George didn't know the details, but he naturally joined in, laughing the same way. I think that's actually a pretty good spot to end. And yeah, love some sorts of tea and hate others. Yeah, that's apparently true for anything and anyone. I found I'm not overly fond of black teas, but I like the fruit ones more so. From the little I've done. And you know what? I'm gonna have some tea today. I'm not really a tea drinker, I just never get around to doing it. And it's easier to pour like juice out of a bottle than it is to make tea. But you guys keep telling me I need to drink some more, so I'll do that today. I'm gonna go up and go drink some tea with my breakfast today. Because why the hell not? Anyway, this story went from being very, very, very gloomy and dire and whatnot to... I'm guessing this is like the year before or something of that nature, where that previous family meeting, the one that we weren't at in the first episode, and it's and see, nobody's dead yet. I think there's a second page. There we are. But yeah, thank you guys for joining in, and take care, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow, maybe at 4 a.m. my time, Pacific Standard Time, whatever the hell it is. Daylight savings is thoughts that go weird. Anyway, till next time. See you guys later.